Hello, hello, and thank you so much for joining us here at Arizona Interfaith Power and Light. And I am blessed to be in this space with a local advocate for so many things in Arizona. We are working with today, and we're talking with today, Eddie, who is with the Arizona Jews for Justice. And Eddie and I met a number of years ago, and our paths keep colliding. So it's an honor to be in this space with you. And I think I shared with you, Eddie, we're going to be talking about Marshall Gantz's storytelling format, which is the story of me, the story of us, and the story of now. And this program is actually brought to us by the National Interfaith Power and Light with its local chapter, which we are, Arizona Interfaith Power and Light, and with Faith in Public Works. This year, we created a voter reflection guide for faith communities. And with that voter reflection guide, there are 6 topics or 6 issues, whichever way you'd like to view it, that we think are vital for us to think about as we head to the polls in 2020. And we thought the best way to do that, now that COVID-19 has hit us so hard, is to conduct these interviews through webinar format. And so for those of you who are joining us on Facebook now, or who are watching us later, if you have any questions at all that maybe weren't answered by the people who are participating, please definitely reach out to us, and then Eddie will give you his contact information as well. So without further ado, Eddie, yeah, tell us about you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eddie Chavez Calderon. I am the campaign organizer at Arizona Jews for Justice. I am a DACA recipient. I wear many hats. I have a Jewish soul in me who fuels me to fight for justice. I'm an advocate for all folks who have been marginalized and oppressed, and trying to push for us to be able to have any sort of grasp of power and to shift the power dynamics and the systems of oppression that continue to harm our communities. My story began in the United States at the small age of 4 years old, when my mother came into the border as a single mother with me strapped behind her back. We walked for days in the Sonoran desert, and we were able to make it into Nogales. In Nogales, we were apprehended by Border Patrol, where for the first time, my very first welcome to the United States was a gun and a very cold seat in the back of somebody's car. From there, we were transferred into a holding cell, where the very first thing that my little brain can remember, my little 4-year-old brain remembers hearing screaming, smelling of feces, hearing women and children consistently cry and shake, asking us if we knew what was going on. I remember how cold it was, feeling how my mother would hold me in tighter and tighter every single time she could to make sure that any little warmth stayed within me, not her, but within me. I remember thinking about, where were we going to drink water, Mom? We had 2 options. We could either drink from the toilet or we can drink from the sink. By the grace of God, we were given the opportunity to be released somehow, somewhere. I don't know how miracles work specifically, but we were released, and we were able to have the opportunity to travel to Tucson, Arizona. Where in Tucson, Arizona, I was reminded that I am a child and that I should not have to go through the trauma of being treated as a criminal and being treated as less than human. I sat down for the most American stapled restaurant that now I view as something so incredibly unhealthy. But I got to sit down at a Burger King and try the staple American food of a Whopper. And within that little box came a toy. And that toy lit up my soul. It reminded me that I was a child. It reminded me that of the right that I had to present myself as a kid and have the ability to play and laugh. And throughout my entire journey, my mother had always told me, vamos a estar bien, which translates to, we're gonna be okay. And at that moment, she told me, estamos bien, we are okay. So you have heard my story and you wonder why I share it and why I've been an advocate for the years that I have, because stories like mine are not unique. Stories like mine are but a grain in the sand dunes of the systems of our broken immigration system. They are but another page in this book. And I use my story to fuel us, to know that that is the fuel for our civic engagement and understand that decisions are made for us, that I cannot vote, that I have no say in what happens, but you do. So it's my fuel, my right to make sure that I engage with my community and that they vote with me in mind. So now when politicians are having to address immigration, they know that they have my advocacy that is bold and unapologetic. And my advocacy sees no color, it sees no red nor blue, it only sees justice. Meaning that I will pursue my community to advocate and follow through the policies that best fit all of us. Which is where we come down today. In being such a battleground time of where we will decide our faith and who we will be. What will 2020 be for the rest of us after November? Because for some of us, it's life or death. Because some of us, it's deportation or the ability to pursue our happiness without fear. It isn't just a vote. It's our livelihood. It's our families. It's our communities. It's our faith. It's our jobs. We don't have the privilege to say we stay out of politics anymore. We have but a right and a commandment to stay civically engaged.
That's powerful. Thank you so much, Eddie. When you talk about we no longer have the right, or we no longer have the ability to not take action, right? Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear a little bit more of what motivates you from a collective standpoint. Meaning, how do you work with those who might be documented here in the United States, and then those who aren't? How do you find a way to build the bridge to know that like now is the time?
I think through sharing stories and sharing our feelings, because although other folks may not have the same situation as I do, they know what it feels like to have fear, to feel pain, to feel loss, to feel worried, to feel sad. So I connect to them on those levels and share how all these things are affecting us. And here's what the collective feelings that we share together. And this is why we should fight together. And now that you know and you have that engagement, here's how we can reconstruct our communities together.
Very nice. So you work for an organization now. Do you work for multiple organizations or just the one?
I work for multiple organizations. I work for Ur Tzedek, which is a Jewish organization that mobilizes the Orthodox community towards social action. And I work for Arizona Jews for Justice on a local level. So Ur Tzedek is national, Arizona Jews for Justice is local. Advocating and ensuring that the Jewish community participates actively in allyship and towards a social and communal actions towards deconstructing the different systems of oppression that break down our communities.
Nice, nice. And so with those organizations itself, what are some of the things that you are finding, or you're doing work, right? You're engaging people to become active. When it comes to immigration or even democracy and voting rights, what are some of the tactics I hate that word tactics, but what are some of the strategies that you're using to engage people beyond storytelling?
I think it's listening to folks. At this point, folks are outraged and folks want to have an opening to be heard. Folks are not being heard right now. And it is engaging in not only just immigration, but listening to what affects you the most. Because some folks are horrifically horrified by what's happening with our policing system and how our Black sisters and brothers are getting slaughtered in the streets. Some folks identify more with a broken healthcare system and how people are dying because they can't afford insulin. So it's depending on having those real conversations and that real dialogue with people of where can we meet, where can we understand each other, and let me listen. Let me truly listen to understand.
And I think that that's really, really powerful. And I think from across the faith communities, we have, I know as somebody who's seeking ordination right now, part of that training is what makes a good faith leader. And I don't think that that is separate from what makes a good leader in general. And I have been in a lot of spaces with you. And I think what I admire the most about you is this representation of what I identify as a good leader. And that is somebody who takes a step back, who hears the stories. And it's not, you're not just listening, but you're like hearing them. You're embodying the bridge building that happens in these spaces. And being able to ask permission on how to advocate for the people that you're meeting with. And I think that that is really, really powerful. When it comes to the 2020 election, and when it comes to something like the Faith and Public Life voter reflection series that we're doing now, we're calling it the Dignity series. What are some things that, what are some organizations that you have partnered with? Have they been interfaith? And when I say interfaith, I also mean agnostics and atheists and so on and so forth. Have you been doing organizing work around with them? And then that's like the first part of the question. And the second part of the question is, what do you think, if we could narrow it down to just one, is the thing that we should be thinking about when we head to the polls in 2020?
Yeah, we definitely partner with various organizations and looking at interfaith coalitions, looking at like AFN, Arizona Faith Network, working with various synagogues, working with various Christian organizations and churches. We have a very close relationship now with Lutheran Social Services, who we have been partnering with. It takes a community to handle years of different issues, right? It takes a community to handle these things, but it also takes a community to uplift each other, because we can't just be in a state of fighting and fighting and fighting without uplifting each other, because then we burn out. And then where do we go from there? We're just burnout, right?
Right.
And as far as what it comes down to at the polls, I think that we need to reignite the light of our empathy, of our soul and our empathetic self, of understanding that things may not be affecting you, but they are greatly affecting other people. That the issues are getting worse for other communities while they may be getting better for you. Understanding that it is a bigger world than just your daily life.
Yeah.
Taking into consideration others' pain and suffering, and bringing that and using what you feel and where you want to go and how you want to uplift your community, take that with you to the polls. Because I believe that, and pushing forth my Judaism, I believe that it's a spiritual thing to vote, because it's just you and God, nobody else. So when you make that decision, only person watching your vote and holding you accountable is your faith. It's the only thing that's watching you right there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, thank you for that. It's amazing. I've struggled with this concept of empathy for a while now, and probably about a year or two ago, I would have said that empathy doesn't exist. I don't think empathy is innate in us. It's not like we're born and we have empathy. I think that it's much more complicated than that. And I think with a lot of the civil uprising that we've had in combination with the experiences and the affects of COVID-19 felt across the world, that it's interesting to see how empathy will be something that is cultivated in those times. And then you add the election on top of it too, right? So yeah, bringing it back a little bit to you, if I may, what are some of the things that you do to take care of yourself? I know that this may seem like a really odd question for perhaps some folks that are tuning in, but you mentioned it in just kind of that last response, is how we take care of one another. How do we take care of ourselves? And I know that when 2016 happened, there was a rash of, I forget the term, where it was self-care, but we were all posting about it on social media. And self-care came oftentimes at the expense and the safety of others in some of the service fields and stuff like that. And since now that is even higher risk, being in the circumstances that we are in, what are the things that you do or engage in or encourage the ones that you love to do to take care of themselves?
Do something that has absolutely no value to anybody else or thing but you. Take time to do nothing that has any sort of productivity to anybody else but you. To me, that's mixing music, that's playing with my dog, that's sometimes just taking a nap, where I have the ability to just hold myself and honor myself. And as well as one of the biggest things that I've learned, and this has been thanks to my partner, is having the ability to say no. Having the ability to say, you know what, I can't do that event. I can't join this protest. I can't do this because I have to make sure that myself does not burn out. And that is a powerful thing to do, because we live in a society that demands so much of us. So much, whether that be in our relationships, our professional life, our spiritual life, demands so much of who we are and what we are, that sometimes it's okay to say no and hold yourself at a pedestal of saying, I need time for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And even in the Old Testament, especially in Leviticus, we find that the Lord directs us to rest.
Yeah.
The
Shabbat.
Lord directs the land to rest.
Which is why I love my Judaism and observing Shabbat. I recently emailed my rabbi and I was just telling him how much I love Shabbat. Because it not only gives me an ability to have that rest myself, rest my cell phone, rest anything, but it gives me the ability to also have the confidence of saying, no, I'm observing Shabbat. Of saying, no, I'm taking this time for my deep rest.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. And so before we close out, I want to ask you one final question. What are some things that you can suggest other than self-care and those kind of things for people who might be going to the polls in November? I know that we all are being inundated by a mass set of text messages from different groups that have our public voter file information. I speak of this from personal experience. I both received those text messages and have been on the other end of sending out the text messages. I encourage you, if you get those text messages, to respond kindly to them, because there are people and human beings on the other side of them. I'll just leave it at that. I've seen some really interesting responses and some that have made me smile a great bit. But, there are organizations I saw, like locally, like Mass Lib, Black Lives Matter, Phoenix Metro, and those organizations offering rides to polling places, those kind of things. Is there something that you can think of that maybe the Jews for Justice, Arizona Jews for Justice is doing, or any other organizations that you support?
Yeah, we partner with my great friend Brent Whiting from Tomorrow We Vote, who does a lot of like souls to the vote, to the polls type deal, where he does a lot of mass texting, like we can get you a ride to get to the polls. And I think one of the best things that I do is the buddy system. The past primaries, I was checking in on my friends. How many of you voted? Did you vote? Please turn in your ballot. Here's where your precinct is. Here's where you need to go to vote. And like on them, like, hey, I texted you 45 minutes ago. You haven't texted me back, and I can get annoying. But for a lot of us, right? Like decisions are made for us. So when you have any sort of access to power, we want to make sure that you use that. That if you have the blessing and the privilege of having any sort of democratic power, that you hold on to that, because we have that blessing to do that here, right? Using community power and relying on your friends is a powerful thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know I said one final question, but how do we reach you? What can we do? What are some things that you can do? How do folks that are listening in and tuning in? And keep in mind, this could be at one of our Dignity Series Tuesday events. We're hosting these events every Tuesday from August 11th through September 15th, from 12 noon to 1, and then again from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Facebook and Zoom, of course. But they're going to be available on our YouTube afterwards. So any of the faith-based organizations across the state or across the country or across the world can go and view them. We want to make sure that people are supporting the work that you do, that are honoring some of the wonderful advice that you gave us today. So how do we get in touch with you, and what do you need us to do?
For sure, yeah. Follow us on Facebook. Our right now, in the times of this great social distance, our social medias have been such a blessing and a great platform to be able to continuously engage with each other. Look us up at Arizona Jews for Justice, both on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as look up our sister organization, Uri Tzedek. Follow us as well on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get in touch with more of what we do. You can look me up on Facebook. I'm always happy to make new friends at Eddie Chavez Calderon, and stay in touch with our work and what we do here.
Wonderful. And I think that you have an event or two coming up. Is that correct?
We have we had a couple of events already passed, but we will be having some events on faith and counting us in on the census event. I'm happy to share the flyers and stuff like that. I'll send it to you, Ellie, so you can distribute to folks. We have a couple of events that I'll send over to see if people get excited to join.
Perfect, perfect. Well, Eddie, thank you so much. I admire all of the work that you do, and I guess the work that we do together. But more importantly, I just adore you. You are a wonderful human being, a wonderful dad to a wonderful dog, which I love seeing pictures of, and all of that stuff. And I wish you good health. I wish you good health. I think that's an important thing to have during this time. And I will vote with you in mind, and I will encourage others to vote with you and my brothers and sisters who are currently incarcerated in Arizona state prisons. And so, yeah, I will carry that weight to go vote. So thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate you.
Blessings to you.
Blessings to you. Take care.
Thank you. You too.